welcome back to Behind the Gloss. Today I'm here with an amazing, amazing person. You may recognize her voice, but now you get to see her face. It's the one and only Angelica. Hi.
Hi! So excited to be back.
Oh, thank you. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying the sun. That's why I always stay in Vancouver for the summertime. Busy just like everyone out there, but I'm super excited to be back. I'm very
Thank you so much for being back because last time we were on, we were talking about rejection. And I know I faced a lot of rejection since the last time we talked, but I think I'm learning how to deal with it better and like getting over it better. But yeah, what about you? Have you had to face any rejection?
probably. It happens all the time, right? In all aspects of our life. It could be as simple as asking your partner for something, them saying no, or at work if you want to work on a project and you have, you get a no. Maybe you're the one rejecting other people. Yeah, it happens all the time. No major ones yet, I don't think.
Oh,
Um,
I
but
hope
like I said,
no.
it's just life. It'll roll around and we have valleys, right? So it'll come back.
Exactly. But like I said, our talk last time definitely has helped me with, handling rejection. Last time, and you just did it now, you were talking about we actually have the power. Well, I don't know if I should call it power, but we can reject other people and sometimes we can say no to people. So that's what we're talking about today, like the power of no. So yeah, I guess my first question is it a power? Because I feel bad saying, "Oh, I'm gonna reject." I have the power to reject you. Like that sounds so
Yeah.
mean.
Well, it comes with responsibility, right?
Mm,
It is a power that I think we don't use often. So if you want to talk about it as a form of power, it's something that we don't utilize often because we're afraid of it. We're scared to disappoint people. We don't want to upset them. We anticipate people to have a negative response. But when you use it reasonably, and if the other person is also reasonable and mature, uh, it brings a lot of good. It will help people progress, and it will help you feel confident, and it will help you reassure yourself in your own judgment, right? And I'm being really vague because rejection can come in all forms, like I said, right, personal or professional relationships. But yeah, that's how I feel about it, and I had to learn that the hard way too, right? Rejection's hard for everybody. Yeah.
it is, and that was gonna be my next question. Like, when or how did you learn that this is, I love what you said, a responsibility, and it can be a good thing, like when you use it properly. So yeah, when did you discover that?
Uh, I want to talk about that question in different types of situations. I think one, when you're a kid, you learn about the power to reject and say no. But I think when you're a kid, and I recently went to a kid's birthday party and where I got to see kids interact as kids do, we say no as kids because it's an emotional response. People are telling us to sit down for dinner. People are telling us to put down our toys, stop watching TV, whatever it is. And our first reaction is to say no. There's no filter, right? As a kid, you're not afraid of offending people. That's not the thing I want to do, so I'm going to say no, right? But as an adult, I think that came more as a young adult, like when you're transitioning from a teenager in high school to a young adult, you start learning more about yourself and what you like and don't like. But with as you learn about rejection at that age, you're also learning about the societal expectations around that, right? You want to say no to all these situations or people, but you're taught, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that because you might offend somebody. Or you shouldn't say that because, it might affect your career in the future or your relationship with this teacher or with this individual. So it gets a little murky, right? You learn more about rejection as you get older, but then you learn more about people. And people is what makes things difficult, right? Myself included. I'm not saying it's other people. They're just, other people are difficult. Um, but yeah, I always think about rejection in those two senses: your emotional response that has no filter, and then your learned societal
Mm.
understanding of rejection.
Yeah, that's such a good point because I was trying to think about me as a kid
Mhm.
saying no, and I really wish I could get back to who I was as a kid because I remember being fearless. Like, yeah, I'll try this, I'll do this, I'll do that. And like now as an adult, I'm so scared to try or to put myself out there because of that rejection. And again, scared to say no to people because I'm like, oh, they're not gonna like me and this and that. And yeah, I'm where did this come? Like, how do I get rid of this? So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's the next question. How can we get rid of this guilt and go back to being kids?
Yeah. Well, filters are important, right? It is good for us to take pause and think about our response, especially if we're giving out a rejection. Um, I think the problem is not us taking pause to think about our response, but it is about the unnecessary expectations on an individual that it when it doesn't make sense to consider rejection. For example, if somebody walks up to you at a bar and asks you out, you're not comfortable because you don't like them, or you're just not interested. You don't really need an excuse. You're just not interested, or you have a partner, right? There's so many different reasons why you might reject somebody in that sense. But I don't know if this applies to you, but I remember being taught, well, maybe you should give that person a chance so you don't upset them. Well, why do I care if I upset them? I'm not comfortable or I'm not interested in this interaction, right? So that's so that makes people feel guilty, especially women or young women, impressionable people, people might with less power. Okay, we want to talk about it in a vague
Right.
sense, and there is no way to get over that guilt because it's learned and it's a very general expectation in our society. The only way you can really get over that hump, you will still be uncomfortable. To get over that hump is to understand why it's happening, which is just realizing that it's unreasonable and trusting your own judgment, right?
Mm.
If you're confident in yourself and your decision making and you don't listen to, right, whether some people might be gaslighting you or trying to sway you in a way that benefits only them or others and not yourself, or it's sacrificing your security and safety, which is should be obvious, um, you will quickly get over that guilt. People might see you or tell you, oh, you're being too aggressive or you're being too demanding. You only care about yourself. You're selfish. And I say to myself, so what? I am my own person. I should protect myself first and my loved ones first, right? Why do I care if some stranger is butthurt or upset because I reject them? Just for example, that sounds aggressive, right? Coming from a woman of color, but it's true. If
So
other people are allowed to feel that way, why can't I? That's the question
oh,
people have to ask themselves.
wait, say
So
that again. If other people can feel that way, because that's what I'm like, what I struggle with. And I think I'm slowly approaching that place of just being like, well, it's okay if you don't like me. And I'm kind of like, do I like you? Like,
yeah,
no, okay, we don't like each other. Then we don't have to interact. Cool, like whatever. And I'm not saying that you're a bad person. Like, I'm not a bad person. It's just, we're not good together. So,
yeah,
no. So, again, like, thank you for saying that. And I kind of feel like we all know why, but let's go ahead and ask the question, why does it feel like women and people of color
yeah, yeah. That's fair.
are more guilted when we say no? Like,
Yeah, it's this strange expectation. It transcends cultures and ages too. That's the crazy part, right? Maybe there's a certain point when you get old enough, like when you're 80, where you really just don't care about anything, then it breaks down all those intersectional barriers. But yeah, I definitely witnessed it and experienced it as a woman of color, as a young woman of color who's also an immigrant. So you relate, right? Um, but I it's just this strange expectation like I'm there to satisfy or cater to people. And if I stand up for myself or I reject people or I don't take no for an answer, right? If it's something that sacrifices my security and safety, like I said, um, then people just think of it as so unexpected. But why is it unexpected? You would take this answer from anybody else. And you might even praise them for standing up for themselves, for knowing what they want, and being confident in their decision. But for me, coming from someone who looks like me, or you, for example, people seem a little bit surprised. And I think that needs to change. But that will only change with our behavior. So it's a really difficult cycle because the responsibility and onus actually comes back to us to start standing up for ourselves. And sometimes without support, we would only have each other, right? And that's actually another reason why I love having conversations like this with you, because they're difficult. And my personality can be a little bit abrasive. I'm very straightforward. I really have no filter. And I say it just the way it is. And sometimes people don't like to hear that. But I think it is important for us to talk about this. That's the only way it will change. Nobody else will do it for us.
Moment of silence for us women of color, because 'cause I'm tired. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know. I'm just very tired. Not only is there regular life, but there's all these other intersectionalities, right? Me as an Asian woman, my experience will also be different from yours. You're a Black woman, right? There's different tiers. There's different levels of how people would treat us or see us, and I think regardless, I will always be there to support you. I expect the same in return, right?
"Oh, thank
Yeah.
you."
So
And
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, of course, I got your back, and even how you were talking about being more abrasive, like, I feel like I've seen it, but I've never been, like, offended by it, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever rude. I think there's some people who are like, "I say it how it is," and like, "You're just rude." Like,
Yeah, that's an excuse to be rude. That's exactly. I'm glad you mentioned it because that's totally different. I'm not out to be rude, but if people ask for my opinion, or of course it's right something to do by safety or security, or it's just a plain wrong thing they're saying or doing, yeah, I will stand up for myself. Why not?
I love that, and just so easy, like, why not? Like, of course, and I think that's how I'm gonna respond. Because I get so annoyed and upset when I will say no, or just say, like, what I want, and then people question it, and I'm just like, "You're gonna get your feelings hurt. Because if I say, "I don't wanna do this with you," and you're like, why, but," and it's like, "I don't like you." Like, is that what you wanna hear? Like, just accept my answer, and yeah, I don't know, like, why do you think people don't I don't know. I don't even know what question. Like, how do you handle that? Like, I guess,
Mhm.
how do you reject people so that they get it?
I think it's important to understand that, yeah, it's our responsibility to make sure we're being reasonable, right? Do we have a good reason for it? Whether it's an emotional reason or, right, in a professional setting, doesn't matter. But you can't control other people. I think we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast as well. The only thing we can control is ourselves. We can't control the situation. We can't control other people, their reaction, um, or anything in that sense. So we can only expect them to be reasonable and to expect or to accept your rejection. That's it.
Mm,
If they are unwilling to accept it, you have to walk away. It's like conflict management, right? If
mhm,
you set your boundary and you outline your expectations, or whatever the situation is, and they refuse to accept it, you can walk away. And when you walk away from someone who's unreasonable, guess what? You win. Some
okay.
HR management companies will tell you, oh, yeah, there's no win lose situation. But technically, when you walk away from an unreasonable person, or, right, a dangerous situation,
Mm,
you win
okay.
because you're
'Cause
protecting yourself.
I was gonna say, how many times do you give these people? Because I feel like I'm the problem, because there's a few people that, walking down these streets in Vancouver, I'm like, "Dear God, I hope I do not run into these people." Because I
Yeah,
feel like I had to kind of cut them off in a way, because I felt like my boundaries weren't being respected,
yeah.
and
Fair enough.
I feel like they think I'm crazy, because 'cause they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel and da 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 da," and it's just like, "I've explained everything, you're not getting it, like, I'm just not having communication with you." But again, I feel like the crazy one. Like,
Yeah, you feel crazy because there's almost like they're slowly, maybe not purposefully, but manipulating how you felt about your decision, right? Or
yeah.
how you feel about them. And like I mentioned before, only you should be able to control that, right?
Mm,
It gets into a little bit of a tricky territory when you're allowing people to tell you how you should feel, right? especially when it's not to your benefit or to your
Yeah.
health. And like I mentioned before, it's you have to be confident in your judgment, right?
Mm.
Yeah. The moment you start to slip and, oh, what if they're right? And, I didn't make the right decision. And I should put them back in my life, even though I know they weren't good for me. Then you should take a pause and ask yourself, am I sure I'm in the right relationship with this person, or do I still want to be friends with this person? Or in a professional setting, yeah, whatever it is you're talking
Mhm.
about. Yeah, I think it always comes down to that. Trust yourself, right?
Ooh,
Trust your gut.
yeah, and again, I think it's so hard because again, being women and women of color, so many people are telling you, and what makes me really sad is I feel like it's sometimes other women who are gaslighting me or, like, not respecting my no, and I'm like, "Girl, we are in, like, the same fight, like, respect me, like, why aren't you respecting me?" Like, whoa, and I think I don't know, does it hurt a little bit more when you feel like you're not being respected by a woman rather than a man? Like, sorry, men, but I'm like, I kinda expected that, but, like,
Yeah,
another woman, I'm like,
so funny, right? I don't want to say it's because our expectations of
Mm,
women. That's not true because expectations of women are very high. They're unreasonably high. But let's talk about just this very specific situation. I don't think my expectation of another woman, especially somebody I know, is like unreasonably high. But I have to say it's because my expectation for men are very low. I make them beyond attainable. Right. And I think that's the problem we have in general. It's because, yeah, like through my interactions growing up, like I have a brother, I grew up with all male cousins. They take a longer to mature. They live life in a different lens. They see it in a different lens. And that's not their fault. That's their lived experience. That's their identity that shapes how they see the world, right? Because they get treated differently. All right. But then because of that, we make the bar just a little bit lower so we don't get disappointed all the time. But yeah, for another woman, you might say, I we go through many similar experiences in life, so shouldn't you respect me because we are going through the same thing? Yeah, you would think that. That may not always be true. Like I mentioned, intersectionality, right? Or you could be a woman all the same and identify as a woman, but the other aspects of your life make your life experience very different.
mm,
Um, so it's good to keep an open mind about that. Yeah. Doesn't
yeah,
doesn't make anyone better than another, but you might just be maturing a little faster, or you've gone through more situations and they have yet to catch up.
yeah. I
Yeah.
like to think that, but again, I try not to be too conceited and be like, "Oh, I'm just so much more mature." Like, I do
Yeah.
try
No. No.
to
Yeah.
like, take time to myself and be like, "Okay, well, could I have handled this situation differently? Like, what could I have done?" Because going back to you talking about just trusting yourself and knowing yourself so that you're confident in your no, I
Mhm.
think that does take time. Because again, just, like, time on your own and understanding, "Okay, like, why does this make me feel uncomfortable? Like, well, what do I really want? Am I influenced by this or that?" Like, I think those are
Mhm.
the questions you need to ask yourself, and like you keep saying, only you're responsible for that. I can't say anything else, but yeah, I don't know. Did you have any other advice for people who need to learn how to trust themselves to be confident in that no?
Yeah. If it's a situation you're, where you have to give a rejection and you have time to prepare ahead of time, think about what you want to say, right? It's like having a difficult conversation with your partner. You want to note down what the issue is or what the topic is, and then kind of outline your reasons, how you want it to play out. I'm not saying it's going to play out exactly how you wrote your script, and maybe it's not even really a script, it's just a brainstorming stage, but it will help you in the moment. Even if you blank out in the moment, you at least have those little nuggets of keywords or things you want to get through, and it might be a little bit easier in the moment. And the second piece of advice I have is be careful not to be guided by your emotion. If your conversation with this individual or group of people gets to be a little bit heated or emotionally charged, like you're getting upset, they're getting upset, it's not playing out the way you want it to ideally, it's okay to walk away, right? take a pause and say, maybe we'll continue this a little bit later. This doesn't really seem like the right time to do this, or I need a bit of time. This is not how I thought it would play out. So I think we should step away. We'll talk a little bit later. If you are afforded that luxury of meeting up with that person later or talking to them later, take it, because nothing goes well when we start seeing red or black. That's what I call it. When I get upset, I see black. When I get angry, I see red. The moment I can physically or visually feel that emotion, I cut it off. And that's something I had to learn over the last 5 years. And that comes with maturity, right? Knowing that you don't have to get all your words out now. You don't have to win. You don't have to have the last word. Take a break, and that's okay too. I think that's probably the most important piece of advice related to this.
And then I wanted to ask, like, how do you think it's best to reject someone? I imagine like every situation is different, but I always like texting or emailing, and I know a lot of people don't, but because to your point of like seeing red or black, I'm like, I can see what you said, and they're just words, and then I can take my time, digest what you said, formulate what I want to say. Because again, the first draft, I'm gonna be pissed. I'll probably be cussing, but then I can erase that and write a more well, we have chat now, so then I can run
Mhm.
through chat, get that professional response and handle it that way, but I think so many people wanna talk in person, and I'm more soft-spoken, so I think then I just kinda, like, let people talk over me and kinda bow down like, "Okay." So, I
Yeah,
don't any advice on how to actually interact? Like, is it better face to face or can I just text?
I hate to tell you the truth. Face to face is always better. I
No.
don't want to quote numbers because I can't remember if it was 70, 80, or 90%. So that's why I'm careful not to say a number. But most of our communication as human beings is through our body language. I think that's become more common knowledge within the last 10, 15 years anyway. I remember learning it in school, and that was still quite a new, right, general discovery for people. But because most of our interaction is through, right, our body language, whether it be the way I move my hands or the way I smile, the way my eyebrows move, uh, it is really easy to misinterpret text messages and emails. But
Mhm.
I'm the same as you. I'm not as soft spoken, right? I can be a little bit crass, so I don't mind standing up for myself. But unless you've met me in person and know me very well, if you read some of my messages from whatever media or sources from, email, text message, WhatsApp, it can come off as a little bit abrasive or kind of like, like a tiger or a lion that's pouncing on you and not letting go. It gives off that vibe a little bit. I've noticed that in myself, but I also have gotten that feedback in a professional and personal setting. And so I'm careful using text and email. There's nothing wrong with it, but like I said, it depends on the topic and depth of what you're communicating about. But also, has that person met you before in person and spoken to you? Do they know you well enough to not misinterpret that in a negative way? Right. And
Yeah.
so, as difficult as it is to do things in person, or maybe prohibitive because of time or distance, it is still the better option. I hate to admit it because I also like to draft and edit, but if it has to be in person, you can do that still. You could draft and edit and have notes. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with having notes in person either. So,
that's true.
yeah.
Because I hear you, but I still wanna disagree because I don't I was
I
gonna say
thought,
I don't like talking to people, I have a podcast, like, I
yes.
do, I guess, like, confronting people because. Like I said before, I'll say what I have to say, and I think I'm being nice and kind, and I personally feel gaslit by them because 'cause they're like, "I didn't do that. No, da da da," and I just feel like they're lying, and it's like, I do not have time to sit here and go through every lie, but see, if you text me, I got the
Yeah.
receipts, Imma pull up more receipts, and I'm gonna, like it's the whole thing, but yeah, you're probably right, you probably need to do face to face, but
But it's difficult. I get the same way too. If I have the receipts or I know, like, you heard this about me, for example, you heard this about me, but it's not true. So let me get you the information or let me prove it to you. Sometimes we have to hold ourselves back and think, does that matter? What is the main point of what I'm trying to achieve here? Is it to prove my case, like by evidence or like by trial? Or is it more important to have a general conversation with this person to make sure we can move past that and not, not sink ourselves in this pool of disagreement or back and forth, trial sort of setting, and then just get to a better place, right? Like close off this disagreement. I think we get too hung up on needing to be right. And there's nothing wrong with being right, especially when, yeah, you're the one getting accused or it's something's unfair happening to you. But depending on the situation, you may just have to move past that. That's a good topic for another time because it's something I struggle with greatly, but that might be better for all at the end.
It's that thing of, like, you need to move past and, like, forgive and forget, but I'm just so hurt, and then I know for me personally, like, it takes me a while to actually finally speak up and say how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It's something I'm working on, but literally, like, something will happen in the moment. I'm like, "Oh, I'm really uncomfortable." And then it's like the moment's gone and I didn't speak up, so I'm famous for it. Like, it will be months later and I'll text them like,
Yeah.
"Hey, so like a few months ago you did this thing and I didn't feel good about it and like, please don't do it again."
Yeah, I know, but it's more effective in the moment, right? But sometimes we get so uncomfortable, or we sit and think about it for too long. Not to say it's not a bad thing to bring it up months later. If it is bothering you that much, is better than never. But yeah, depending on what it is, sometimes it's better let the moment pass. And that's difficult because I'm just like that too. I gotta get my point across, and I've learned, that does not always work out very well for me.
Well, because that's gonna be my next question. Like, I feel like for me, it's sometimes just so much easier to say nothing. And I feel like that's equally as problematic as just, popping off at the mouth. So I guess it's like, where's that fine line? Because like you were saying earlier, like I feel like if it happens, I'm just like, "What the don't mess with me," and da da da. It's like, then I'm just and I feel like then my point still isn't getting across. But then again, if I wait, they're like, "Girl, what? I don't remember that."
Yeah, the moment has passed.
I don't know, I guess, like, why is it easier to say nothing? Because I feel guilty even when I say nothing. I'm like, "Oh, man," but
Yeah. Sometimes we want to say nothing instead of being truthful because we think it's going to upset the other person. We think we're causing harm and we think we're protecting them by saying nothing at all. But this might be a little controversial, but sometimes I think people need to hear no. They need to be told no. And I'm taking that as an internal reflection because there have been times where people have rejected me. And when I look back, whether it be days, months, even years later, I think, wow, I'm so glad they rejected me or told me no because I ended up doing something different that was better for myself or I ended up in a better opportunity, whatever the case may be. So it may not always be appropriate to frame it in that way to say, I'm going to go tell them no without thinking further about it because it's probably going to help them or they're expecting it. Not really. That's a little dramatic, but sometimes people need to be told no. And you would be surprised. They might be pleased to hear that you stood up for yourself or you're giving a really good reason for your rejection, right? And so instead of always framing it in a negative way to say, oh, I may offend them, they may be expecting me to be a lot nicer or to say nothing at all and just go along with them. You'd be surprised. Some people might they might be expecting that no.
yeah, I have not experienced that. I'm waiting, I'm hoping I will, but like I said, I feel like my no's just get met with, like, "You're crazy," like, in short. But to that point, like, do you think people want to know the truth, like, the full truth, or
Mhm.
do you think we like being lied to? Because I think I
I,
like being lied to.
yeah. Well, think about how you feel when you have to lie. Does it feel good? Even when it's like a surprise you have waiting for somebody and they ask you like, "Oh, were we out all day? Like, what's in that bag?" And you have to tell them, "Oh no, I just, I have to go meet somebody and I picked this up for somebody else." It doesn't feel good, right? Even if it's for a good reason and it's like a surprise for them. So you imagine how other people feel when they find out they're being lied to.
Mm,
You
well,
could say ignorance is bliss. If they never find out, they never figure it out, and they never even think about the possibility of you lying, maybe it's okay, but that doesn't make it right. And they might figure it out. So you dig yourself into a deeper hole by not telling them the truth. Unless the truth is so hurtful that you have to, bring it into bed, so you have to start thinking about whether it's reasonable. That's a little more complicated, but I always think I always tell people, how do you feel if you have to tell a lie? And how would you feel when you find out it is one? Would you really want to put somebody else in that situation?
That's true. Which again is why I say nothing, but
Yeah, and then if it goes back into a loop, but if you say nothing, it could be worse.
yeah, because
Yeah.
then I know there's been times where I've wanted to, like, speak up, and this is in a job setting, or I guess even other settings, but, like, I wanna speak up to the managers, be like, "Oh, I disagree," or "I felt disrespected," and I remember people being like, "Yeah, but it's not gonna change anything." So then I felt like I should just shut up and not say anything, and I don't know, any advice with that? Like, if it's gonna fall on deaf ears, or if it does, like, is it still worthy to say something?
That is a really good question. I actually am going through it in a professional setting, like for work. I'm not going to say specifically what it is or where I work, but uh, it's difficult because you start thinking, well, is someone going to defend me? Right? If it comes down to it, I'm the one that's pointing out this needs to be changed, or I want to say no because I'm asked to do something I'm not comfortable. Is someone going to back me up? And I always assume no. I know this sounds horrible, but you always assume the bare minimum. Hopefully, people will stand up for you, or because they're going through the same situation, they'll back you up. But you always have to assume, no, I'm on my own. So, in case I am, and I don't want to say nothing because it's not beneficial to myself or anybody or for the business, right? If it's in a professional setting, then what can you do? I always come back to, do I have documentation? Do I have evidence that's irrefutable? Do I have something that's impartial that I can use to prove my point? Because even if it comes down to, yeah, nothing will change, hey, at least I tried. And at least it won't blow back on me to say I made it up, or my response was emotional and I have absolutely no evidence. Sometimes it's difficult to get evidence for things, but that's when you have to play the game. That's when you have to take a chance on what's worth it for you, right? You always have to imagine this like a chessboard or any kind of chess game. Doesn't matter what kind of culture the chess game is from, but you only have one move right now. So you need to think about, are you ready to make this move, or would you rather wait? Right. To wait for a better opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, I'm tired, I don't wanna be playing chess, I just wanna but, like, that really is
Yeah.
great advice, just thinking about all the consequences. Because unfortunately, sometimes when you tell the truth, you do get in trouble for the truth sometimes.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
again, it's like, are you gonna go down for the truth, or are you just gonna go down for nothing? And then, like
Yeah.
you said, like, I think at least document it, so you have it, like, with the dates and everything, and yeah, because I know for me, sometimes when I have stood up to people, they're like, "Well, why didn't you tell me? Like, why didn't you tell
Yeah.
me in the moment?" And it's like, "You're kind of scary." Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it is creating an environment for me to speak up. So, yeah, I don't know, just anyone listening, like, I hope that you don't ever feel shame with yourself for not speaking up. Like, please don't ever feel
Yeah.
guilty because people make it really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a reflection of you. If you are afraid to say anything because the environment or the people are making it difficult for you, that's not on you. Like I mentioned before, you cannot control other people. That is, for some reason, that's very difficult for people to understand. It took me years to learn it. And it's so obvious, right? When I say it out loud, like, okay, really, I'm going to listen to this podcast and this girl's telling me I can't control other people. But if you sit down and think about it, this is going to be the best advice you get this year, is you cannot control other people, and that's in your family, your partner, your friends, your work setting. I don't care if you volunteer, this is like your friends at your dance studio and you're trying to help them on. You cannot control other people. You can give advice when you're asked for, you can give them guidance, whether it's spiritual or right psychological. It's, at the end of the day, whatever decision they make or whatever they choose to say and how they choose to move forward, you let them be, right? You only do what you can do to help them, and then that's it. You will go to sleep happier and feel healthier instead of feeling like, oh, I wish they would just do the thing I told them to do because it's better for them. You can only guide them. That's it.
You're saying that, and I know some people who I think they just love so much and they love so hard, and I feel like they have, like, that takeover spirit when they wanna control
Yeah.
everything and everyone so that they give that unsolicited advice, and it sometimes doesn't even come across as advice. It's like, "Do this because it's good," and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to, and again, in those moments, I really struggle to speak up to be like, "No, I disagree," or "No, I don't wanna do that," but again, to your point of, like, we can't control people, I
Yeah.
think still speak up because you're at least putting that little bug in their ear
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I think, what is it? Like, if you say nothing, then it's kind of like compliance. So
Yeah.
if you're
It's
saying something, you did something, put the bug in the ear, and then, we just don't pray to God that, like, they find
Mhm.
Jesus and figure it out. But
Yeah.
I don't know, 'cause I'd imagine, like, if I'm saying something, maybe someone else will say something to them, and it's like, "Why does everybody keep saying this about me?" And I
Yeah.
hope that they would have a come to the light moment, but
Yeah. Either they'll recognize it themselves or it just took one more person to tell them, right, tell them what they need to hear.
exactly. And
That is what will change. Yeah.
but I wanted to ask, like, I think another reason I don't speak up as much or say no is because, yeah, I'm a Black woman and there's that stereotype about the angry Black woman.
Yeah.
Kind of feel like I have to say yes to not be angry.
Right.
And
Or say nothing.
yeah, and that's such
Yeah.
a disservice to myself. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to find ways to say no, but not make it be mean. But also to your point, like, okay, well, if you see me as that, then that's how you see me. But like, again, that's a you problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess my question to you is like, as a woman of color, like, do you deal with any stereotypes regarding like speaking up? And how do you kind of
Yeah. And you know what is a double-edged sword? And I actually told somebody at work about this today. And like I mentioned, that's why I like your podcast because of the topics you pick are actually relevant. Like adults will encounter these situations. We just don't want to listen to it or hear about it because it makes us uncomfortable, right? But that's why we should talk about it. And it's a double edged sword for me in my lived experience because as an Asian presenting young woman, people expect me to be meek or quiet, and I'll say yes. And that's the general stereotype. I won't get into too much detail because there's nuances to it. But at the same time, as someone who grew up in Asia and as someone who is Chinese, I'm also expected to be very straightforward, right? That's the cultural expectation that I say it how it is. And sometimes people say, yeah, it comes off as rude. I hear it all the time in Vancouver. Like I go to this Asian restaurant and the service was really rude because they're not right mincing words of kindness and they're just telling me that the choice I picked was, that dish is not even that good. I think you should eat something else. And people don't like that. And so I have both of those personalities within me. One is my cultural expected personality, the way I should behave. And the other one is a learned societal expectation of because I present this way as a woman, people expect me to be shy and to cater to them and be right, very sweet and quiet and all of these things. Um, but yeah, it's I have no perfect advice for that. I just have to accept myself for all these intersectionalities and do what feels right and what makes me comfortable. I'm not going to make myself into this shy individual that I'm not to please you and not ever speak up because I'm a complex person. I also am Asian and Chinese, and in my culture, I'm expected to speak up. So I don't know if that helps really a lot, but it was something that I spoke about recently with another woman of color actually at my workplace because they were struggling with the same.
but again, I think
Yeah.
you just hit the nail on the head. It's that duality. Like we can be both. Like, yes, sometimes I'm going to speak up.
Mhm.
Sometimes maybe I'll let it slide. And I think that's just like the key to life or the whole thing is just knowing when and how to speak up and
Mhm.
just be effective. Because I hate to say it, but I feel like sometimes there is, like, situations where it is, like, death? Like, that sounds so drastic, but
Yeah.
again, as women, we hear those stories, and you're mentioning in the beginning, like, if a guy's hitting on you at the bar, like, I remember kind of being taught, like, you have to just really be, like, strict and upfront, and in that sense, I was more outspoken, like, "No, not interested, leave me alone." But then a girl came to me like, "No, you have to let them down gently, because what if you make them angry and then they get mad?" And
Yeah.
you hear those stories about, yeah, people getting mad and trying to unalive people, and
Yeah.
it's scary and it's hard.
It is scary. It is scary because now it involves your personal security and safety, right? But then why is the onus on us again to have to consider other people's feelings or to have to change our behavior or response based on the possibility that you might harm me or you might stalk me or you might be rude to me and make me uncomfortable? Why? And it goes back to why are we raising our children in that way to behave in that way? Who taught this individual to feel so entitled to a specific response that they want to hear that other people like us have to then cater, oh, I want to say no, but yeah, they might do this and they may expect this, so then I have to say this and that. Isn't that so much more complicated than just being polite and reasonable and honest?
You just blew my mind because I
Yeah.
oh,
It's
how
true.
can we say no? And I feel the question needs to be, are these men, do they understand that they need to just accept a woman's no?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no.
There's definitely a culture shift right now, though. Have you, right? We've seen it in the news.
Oh,
We've seen it, and even in TV shows and popular culture now that no means no, right? My consent is mine alone, and it's yours to accept. There's no other way around it. That's a good shift. I think it's starting to become an open conversation. I'm not saying the issue is fixed; it's definitely not. But the fact that people are even talking about it and there are people realizing, oh, I didn't even know that was an issue before. I didn't know I was making people uncomfortable by not accepting their no. I thought it made me look confident or wouldn't take no for an answer. And it will take time. But if we're having conversations about it, that is already the most difficult first step.
that's good. 'Cause,
Mhm.
yeah, like, I get nervous and, like,
Yeah.
because I didn't want this podcast to be political.
Yeah.
I got scared when the US made their decision, elected who they elected, and then
Yeah.
there were, I think, men on a campus saying, "Your body, my choice." And it was
Yes. Yeah. It's frightening.
and again, it felt like we were taking steps back, but I think that thing with what do they say with success?
Yeah.
You're gonna go back, you're gonna go forward, and I kinda feel like it's just the same with society and a nation,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, there's gonna be people who don't get it, and I think that's the scary thing about life. I'm like,
Yeah.
who's gonna
For
be the
sure.
one? But like you keep saying, that shouldn't change how I show up in the world. Like,
Yeah.
again, going back to you talking about the chessboard, it's like, all right, I know some people are gonna see me and expect XYZ, and they may respond for this. I'm ready for that. Like, bring it. You're gonna say, my body, your choice. You can believe that, but I know how to defend myself and you know
Yes.
what I mean? Just kind of
Yeah, of course.
that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Stand your ground. Don't expect other people to always be there for you, but know there are actually right people to support you, who are also reasonable people. I see that a lot because that was something I learned recently, which is we keep basing our fears of people's reactions in the case that they are unreasonable, but actually most people are reasonable. We're just afraid to reach that point to have difficult conversations with each other. But yeah, if you are justified and you trust your gut and you know you have a good reason to do something or say something, just do it if you feel safe. Right.
Yes,
And if they're reasonable, it'll be okay.
there's hope in the world. Like, it's good. We're okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I do think we are moving in a better direction because, again, like what I said, it made the news because it was so shocking. It was so like, whoa, like this is not okay. So thank you. Like, I feel so much better. And I guess the next question should be kind of like, I don't know. One, like, do you see a difference in how women and men are raised? And then should we raise them differently due to like society? Like, I don't know. Do I have to have a son and drill it into them? Like, you believe women, you do this, and then go to my daughter, like, no, you
Yeah.
speak up, you don't take no from a man. Like, I don't know.
It's weird, right? Because hypothetically, you would think you raise them the same, but yeah, you also can't because they're the way they kids, whether they want to present themselves as a girl or boy or asexual, whatever it is, um, the way they present themselves or the way people perceive them means they will learn different things. They will be treated differently. They will internalize it differently. They will react right in almost opposite manners. That part you can't control. You can only control how you raise your kids. And so inevitably we do the guilty thing, which is, yeah, exactly what you had mentioned. Uh, we teach boys a certain way, we teach girls a certain way. But I always say extremes of in any part of our life is not healthy, right? We think about our behaviors, we think about our political beliefs, our morals, even the way we educate our children. Any extreme is not good. I won't box in my daughter to say you have to behave this way because you're a girl and that's to protect you because that's not fair, right? I'm not gonna let you go out to the playground because just in case somebody speaks to you in a certain way. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. But I have to say I'm also guilty. I have brothers. I have a brother and I have sisters. So I have can definitely recall situations where they're asking me for advice and I'm giving my sister a type of response, but I'll give my brother a different type. For example, for my brother, I'm teaching him, yeah, you should stand up for yourself. It's okay to reject people and say no. It'll make you seem more confident. It'll make you seem right, appear more masculine because you're confident and you stand up for yourself and you know what you want. And also, you should use that power to protect other people because you're in a position to do so. Right? Just as a general, right? That is probably something I've told them before. But with my sisters, I'll tell them, yeah, if you want to reject somebody, you have to be a little bit more careful because what if they come back to harm you or they hurt you and you're perceived differently because you're a woman and then now you're seen as a rude woman and people don't want to work with you or be friends with you. That's totally different, isn't it? They are the same people to me. I love them both the same. They should be treated equally, but I know they're not intuitively. So I'm giving them different pieces of advice to go on with their lives. And I don't know if that will ever change. I think pure equity, right, across sexes and genders, um, is never going to be equal, but that's what we should appreciate is that yeah, no, nobody is the same regardless. We just need to be reasonable people. We need to be polite. We need to be accepting and open-minded. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with treating people as individuals? Maybe it's a little bit controversial, right? But I think recognizing people for their differences and just being human with them, like why is that so difficult?
I
Yeah.
honestly don't know because again, like, I don't know. I've always said, like, I guess I'm hoping it relates. 'Cause I feel like I don't really hear accents. I'm just like, oh, that's just how that person talks.
Yeah.
Like to me, I'm not trying to equate like your accent with where you're from and where you've been. It's like, or like how smart you are, or whatever. I feel like people do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's just them. And same with people, like if they're speaking loudly or not speaking loudly or more like upfront with their feedback versus someone who may, beat around the bush. I'm not judging like, "Oh, that's bad or good." I'm like, "Oh, that's just them. I'm sure they have a reason. That's just how they react to trauma." Like,
Yeah.
okay. So, and I try to ask people, so, okay, like, how should I like give you advice? Like, do you want me to be upfront with you or do I
Okay.
need to
Yeah.
in the blow? Like, I think that's kind of how we start approaching that. Well, I like that you said equity instead of equality. And like, I don't know, let's school the people real quick. What's the difference between equity and equality?
Yeah, that's a good question. Equality to me, and I come from a public health background, so I'm trying to use a more layperson kind of example. Equality is when you give everybody the same. So you get $100, I get $100, right? But we have different incomes, we have different expenses, we have different needs. But equity is ensuring oh, you need assistance for a home because you're caring for others, and right, you have to have a caretaker and this and that. So you get this amount of money because that's what you need. Let's say I don't need that, right? I need more support for groceries. So this is the amount that I actually need to have a comfortable living. So I get less than what you get, but we both end up in the same comfort level. That's equity, is because now we are equally comfortable, right? I don't know if that's too complicated of an example, but we're equally comfortable, but we got different amounts. So it almost seemed like we're not being treated equally, but actually it's based on what we require, right? And that makes things more complex. It's easier to just give everybody $100, right? And call it equality. It is equal. Everyone got $100, but that's some people need more, and some people could do with less.
Yeah.
So that's the difficult part about equity, is to actually make it fair. It might not seem fair in the beginning, right? Some people need more medical care. Some people might not need it. I'm happy to pay taxes and have it go to somebody else because that's equitable, right?
And
So that's why I try to be careful with words. And there's a time and place for both of these, right? Both of these practices. But often we don't recognize when it is the most useful because it gets a little bit tricky, right?
yeah, that's so true,
Yeah.
and that's so good because it's I don't know, I'm just laughing because a lot of people are like, "Yeah, equality, equality," and it's like, I mean, yeah, but equity, equity, because
Yeah.
you
There's time and place for both.
yeah,
There,
and I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think people are trying to fight for that equity because it's like a case by case basis. Like, oh, I actually have to get to know you and like hear
yeah.
about your problems to figure out how to do it. And yeah, I think people are inherently selfish.
Yeah.
And like, do you think that's why, like, I'm equating saying no with power and with dominance? And I think we kind of touched on it with being a man, but it's
Yeah.
like,
Fair enough.
why? When did we equate that with saying
Uh,
no?
I don't know, but I'm guilty of it as well, right? Like the example I mentioned about my brother and my sister receiving different advice from me, sometimes even about the same thing. Uh, I think it's our stereotype of what masculinity means, right? Remember what I mentioned about, right, as someone who presents as an Asian woman, a young one, especially that, and the expectation to be meek or shy and be catering is like the opposite of what we might expect of a man, is somebody who stands up for themselves, says no or makes all the decisions, this and that. But if you think about that, doesn't really make sense, does it? Do you think someone appears more masculine to you just because they are blindlessly like blindly saying no all the time? That doesn't make any sense. And or someone who seems gruff and is not very polite. Yeah, no. That does not scream masculinity to me. But that's the stereotype that is being presented in the media, or maybe in, right, as kids, the way we teach our kids. It's really bizarre. I don't have an answer to it, but yeah, I'm guilty of it. I have to admit. And as that's again, a different topic for another day, is what does femininity mean and what masculinity? Um, yeah, I honestly, I think I'm at lost for words for the first time in this podcast because I don't know. I just know I perpetuate the same stereotypes for sure.
I
I'm
gotta
willing to admit it.
this because I'm like, wait, why am I like this? Why am I doing this? Like, was this taught to me or is this nature? And like, I'm reading the Bible, and this is my first time reading it like front to back, really diving in. And it is quite interesting. And I feel like maybe that's kind of where we got the masculinity from, because it does say that women are supposed to submit to men. And reading that for the first time, it's like, excuse me, Lord, what? Like, so we're supposed to be equal. But then it goes on to talk about how, a man should treat his wife as himself. And, like if he's not treating his wife properly, then God's ears is going to be close to him. But I feel like the problem lies with how some men in authority will just take the verse of women must submit, and this is what submission looks like, and this is what dominant, and then they just like go, and it's like, hold on, read the whole thing, read it in context. Like, no, that's not. I don't even know where I'm going with this because my next question is like, is it bad to be submissive? Because again, I feel like we equate that with feminism or not feminism, like the movement,
Oh,
but like with femininity.
yeah. It has a negative connotation, right? And I and as you say that, I don't think there is a positive connotation to it really. It's not a word I use often because it seems rude. So I'm very careful with it, and uh, I think I think it is meant to be rude. I think that's another part of it. I'd rather think of it as um, how you choose to treat somebody. It's different to say I want to be taken care of as an individual. That doesn't mean I'm submissive,
Mm,
right? I'm still my own person. I still want to make decisions. I still want to have control. But just because I like to be taken care of, whatever the power dynamic is in a relationship or in a family, I don't think that makes me submissive.
yeah, 'cause
And just because someone wants to be taken care of in that way, that doesn't make them less of a person either.
mhm.
That shouldn't make them less capable.
Yeah, like I think it boils down to choice. And again, with the Bible, it talks about us having to submit to God. So I think most people are at least telling Christians, like, no, it's good to submit. But again, being in the world and of the world and coming from, like the feminist movement of us trying to not be submissive all the time, it is weird and conflicting. And again, I'm new to my Christian journey and walk, and like me and God have talks. So I'm like, sir, what do you mean in this
Yeah.
Bible when it says this, that, and the third? But again, I think, like you said, it's just about choice. If I'm choosing to, so yeah, because submit just sounds nasty. But again, I think that's the word. Like if I'm choosing to submit or being taken care of, that's my choice.
Yeah.
But if someone is forcing, that's wrong. That is coercion.
It feels weird, right?
I hope you can get out of the situation. I guess I should put numbers to seek help because yeah, if you're being forced to do
Yeah.
something, that's not it. And I don't know, because then I guess we got to talk about that when it comes to like consent. I think some people are like, oh, well, they didn't say no, so I could do it. And it's like, no. And you said it earlier, body language.
Yeah.
If you say a joke, and I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm not consenting to liking that joke. I'm not.
Yeah. That's why I had mentioned earlier, sometimes saying nothing doesn't mean you're protecting somebody else, right?
Yeah.
You might be more comfortable in the moment to say nothing, but it could lead to misinterpretations, especially if you're having conversation. Even through video is hard. I'm trying to use my hands when I speak to you when I'm struggling to convey something because I feel like for some reason using my body language will help you understand me better. And it's probably true, but if we had spoken in person, better yet, you might understand what I'm trying to convey even more. I'm gonna even have to use my words, and you could see if I'm uncomfortable by something or if I'm afraid of something. You should be able to pick up on that as another reasonable person, as an adult. Um, but yeah, that's why it's so important to, if you have the opportunity to speak up, you should.
And you can, because I also feel like it's so hard for me to speak up for me. When you talk about my homegirl, I'm like a ferocious chihuahua, like,
Yeah.
oh, no, 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 no. So why do you think it's so much easier to speak up for someone else instead of ourselves?
Actually, I was thinking about that recently. I think it's because I'm removed by 6 degrees of separation. I don't feel like I'm the one that's on the docket or I'm the target if I'm speaking up for somebody else. Like, this is your situation. The problem you have is with this individual, and I'm just stepping in to speak for them because they're unable or afraid of telling you the truth. So I'm just here as their mouthpiece. That's why it's easier because you feel like whatever. response or message you're conveying through for another person, you're not the one causing any potential harm or making the person upset personally. They might be upset, but it's like, all right, you're not upset at me, you're upset at them, right? And that could be for anything, for any type of news. It's just easier to do it for somebody else. I'm not saying, hey, every time you have a difficulty talking to somebody, you should try to find somebody else. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just I'm accepting the fact that it is easier. And to be honest, I don't mind being that person. But how much do you want to stick your neck out for somebody else
And
if nobody else is going to back you up? That's what you have to think about.
also, if I'm speaking up for someone else, am I like taking that person's power by speaking up for them when it's like you need I mean, do you need to speak up for yourself? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do.
Is it situation dependent? Like, how do you I don't know.
Yeah. It depends, right? If they're asking you for help and you are willing to help them, like you don't mind being the one, like it says, sticking your neck out or like, speaking to somebody else, you feel safe to do so. There's no harm in doing that because that could be better than doing nothing and saying nothing at all.
Mm.
We often default to that, right? It feels safer. Oh, let me just not say anything or do anything. Um, but if they're just asking you for guidance, in order for them to communicate this news or rejection, whatever it is. But you're stepping in and saying, no, let me just do it for you because I don't think you're going to do a good job or I have more experience than you. That's when it gets a little murky. I think then, right, that's a little bit inappropriate. Then you might be taking their autonomy from them. So yeah, it depends on the context.
And again,
Either way, you're trying to help, but
yeah,
some ways are better than others.
exactly. But I think you have to, you know, go to that person and be like, hey, was it okay that I spoke up? Like, I just didn't think it was right. Or do you want me to speak up? And yeah, because I would hope the person wouldn't get offended. But I think even for me, I've been in situations where I feel like some mess was said to me and no one spoke up. And I was a little offended. No one spoke up for me. But then
Yeah.
someone brought it to my attention. It's like, well, maybe they didn't want to take your power. Because again, being a woman of color is like, yeah, I'm surrounded by white people, like, we love them, but, you know, I don't think they wanna
Yeah, our friends.
stick up for me in that sense of, like, "Oh, are you" yeah, like, taking that autonomy away from me. But if
Hmm.
anyone's listening, please do, because
Yeah.
I struggle speaking up.
Yeah.
Speaking.
And it doesn't hurt to ask the person first. If that really is your fear, I don't think that's always the case. I think it's just an excuse. If that really is your fear, you would have just asked them
Mm,
for their permission. Can I help you? Do you want me to talk to that person? I noticed they were a little bit rude to you, but you're not saying anything. But if you it did make you uncomfortable, I'm happy to talk to them. That's all you have to say. So giving me an excuse after the fact, that doesn't help anybody at all. That's the way I see it.
yeah, and I love that, just going after and be like, even if you clock the rudeness, because like, yo, I think I'm a little bit I don't know how to say this, that doesn't sound rude, just the timing to clock shade that is thrown to me, it's just off. And I feel like there's a delay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like someone will say something shady, and
Yeah.
it's like 2 or 3 business days. And I'm like, wait.
Yeah, wait a second.
So again, like if someone kind of would come to me between those 2 to 3 business days, be like,
Yeah, yeah.
what was that?
You're a soft girl and you take time, girl. That's that's you. I have the opposite problem. I'm too spicy. So before someone even finishes saying something, I have already thought of 5,000 ways I'm going to talk back to this person. I have the opposite problem. I need to take more time actually so we can help each other with that.
Well, I guess that's like we kind of answered the question. I was gonna ask like what's the optimal thing? Because I hate my delays so much that I wish I was exactly like you, that I just pop off like almost without thinking and going. So I'm kind of curious to hear like what problems you're actually having from that. Because again, I feel like I'm having people walk all over me left and right. And then when I try to speak up, they're just not receptive at all. So then I just cut people off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is no way to live.
Yeah. And that's two different things, right? You feel like when people are not listening to you, which is not a I'm not surprised by that phenomenon, right? We've already talked about the way we present ourselves. But your second part of the second question that you have is the timing. There's no, there's no proper timing, right? I think either extreme can be dangerous and harmful because when I pop off like that, without thinking or without listening fully to what somebody is saying because I'm reacting emotionally, then they feel like, yeah, you're not even listening to begin with because you already had a reaction, which is true. They're right. I am already emotionally reacting before they even finish what they're going to say, or I'm not even getting the full story. Or maybe it's something that didn't even require a reaction to begin with. So I should take the time to finish listening to what somebody's saying and then taking pause to think about how do I want to respond to this. Whereas you're saying you have the opposite problem. You're taking everything in, saying nothing, not reacting for fear of them taking it the wrong way, and then sitting, letting it simmer and marinate for many days until you're like, wait a second, right? So you need to find that perfect balance. I'm not saying don't take any time at all to react, but take an appropriate amount of time so you can have that face to face feedback and talk to the person like, hey, you just mentioned this a minute ago. I want to go back to it. I want to,
And I was literally gonna say, I think maybe the solution is just asking them, like, hey, what did you mean by that?
yeah,
Like, wait, what did you say? And just kind of like address it that way. And I think when you phrase things as a question, I hope that people, well, I guess I shouldn't worry about what they think, but I imagine when it's phrased as a question, it's less offensive and
yeah,
it's just like opening the gates to, hey, we need to have a conversation about what just took place. And
yeah. And actually, something I learned at a conflict management class a very, very long time ago. This was at one of my first full time jobs. The reason they put me in a conflict management training is not because I'm causing conflict, by the way. I know that might seem very obvious, but it wasn't me. It was because somebody walked into the office I worked in. I worked in HR at the time, and they were so aggressive. I actually thought they might hit me. That's essentially the full story. Okay. And they realized, oh, we can't really, change the security in our building. So we're just going to send you for conflict management training just in case it happens again. No problem. Happy to have training. And one of the things I learned in that training is when someone is angry, if you try to ask them a reasonable question, for example, exactly like what you said, what did you mean when you say that? It could be any kind of question, but something reasonable, that will inevitably tone the person down just a little bit. Again, it depends, right? If they're throwing knives everywhere, then yeah, you just get the hell out of there. But if they're angry, as in they're emotionally charged and they're starting to yell at you or they're starting to become unreasonable, if you ask somebody a question, for some reason, it tones them down a little bit because they know, oh, I have to answer that question. So even though I'm really pissed right now and I want to yell because I didn't think the customer service I received was good and now I'm really angry, to be asking a question like, hey, what happened? Just tell me what happened because I wasn't there. They're forced to take a deep breath and then answer you. I'm not saying start throwing questions out of nowhere like a ninja. Be reasonable about it. And I don't know, it works. So that's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever learned about conflict management. And you could use that. It doesn't have to be in a professional setting like what I just talked about. It could be with your family and friends.
that's
Yeah.
good. Wait, because
Yeah.
I came up with the question because I read my Bible and I saw
Oh,
Jesus asking people questions. So I was like,
there you go. Maybe he had the same intention or just making people self-reflect.
yeah.
That's,
And because, sorry, I didn't mean to make this like a religious podcast.
no, that's okay.
Yeah, because again, people say that the Bible is like living and breathing, and I didn't understand it until I started reading it, and I'm like, oh, I can apply this to my life. But yeah, like there's many times in the Bible where even God will ask a question. He's like, where are you going? And it's like, he's God. He knows everything. Like he knows.
He's right. Where am I going? Yeah, I know, right?
So then it's like the scholars, like I listen to people talk about the Bible so I can understand it. And they're saying like he would ask questions to make us think about where we're going and what we're doing. Cause again, he knows everything. So I'm like, oh wow. And like again, yeah, just to solidify, even biblically, you can ask questions on the Bible.
Yeah. So it works. So I must be correct because I learned it from a training and that's what Jesus said. That's the only approval I need.
Honestly. And because again, when you were talking about, people not like I don't have to worry about people liking me, I'm like, Jesus loves me. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's right. It's true. The only validation I need, that's what I was trying to say.
Exactly. But I also wanted to ask, like, why do you think people don't accept our no's? Like, is it going back to that dominating versus like submissiveness, or
Mhm.
is it just the selfishness that they're like, no, I just don't want to accept your no?
Yeah, I don't know. Because it's not the answer we want. Because maybe we're taught not to take no for an answer, right? I alluded to that a little bit earlier. Sometimes it's a learned behavior. It's something we're taught. uh, we're told, right, to stand up for ourselves, or don't take no for an answer because people will think you're weak, is all sort of those weird things that we allow ourselves to be taught, um, or we're just not ready to accept it. A lot of times when I'm told no or I'm told to do something, I know deep inside, yeah, they're right, but I'm going to fight it because I'm just stubborn, and that's not what I want to hear right now. But if I'm a reasonable person, eventually I will accept it. I may even go back and say, I'm sorry, in the moment I wasn't ready, but I do agree with you. I'm not being sarcastic. I do agree with you. I appreciate it. And now I'm ready to move forward.
That's good. I'm glad that you do that.
So I'm trying. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still struggle every day in a personal sense, and right, in a romantic sense, in a professional sense, but once you realize that, it should get better. And when you have more practice, right, you'll get to that point where you're comfortable doing that.
Yeah, and again, that's helpful for me as someone who's trying to get my no across. That is again, it's not personal, like, "Oh, they're just not ready to hear," or again, maybe they've never been heard or
Yeah,
never been told no.
yeah.
Maybe I'm the first person to stand up to them, and like we said before, sometimes it falls on deaf ears, but it's like, "Hey, I'm glad to be the first." Like, I
Yeah,
did.
it's okay. Yeah.
But yeah, and I guess just wrapping it up, like any advice on how to say no? Because I know there's that golden thing of it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, any
Yeah.
advice on saying no?
Well, I feel like I am very qualified to give this advice because I'm actually guilty of doing the wrong thing all the time. But your tone, and it's the soft balance between, yeah, you don't want to be a pushover and say nothing, but you also don't want to be like me and have no filter and be crass all the time. But if you can talk to people in person, or even over the phone. I don't know if people use their phones anymore, but anyway, I'm aging myself. You could use the phone and talk to people, yes, instead of texting them. When possible. And you have to remember, you have to gauge, does this person know you? How long have they known you? In what kind of setting have they talked to you before? Because that should change how you present news or talk to people. Body language, I mentioned before, right? That's easily solved if you're in person, or right, you can see each other. That helps as well. And be prepared. If you need to take notes, no one is shaming you for that. Take as many notes as you need, edit it, right? Type it out, have the notes with you when you're talking to somebody. That doesn't make it confrontational. It People won't look down on you because you have your notes ready. It just means I care about this enough, and I care about you enough to spend time to prepare this. And I want to tell you the right thing. And I want to be organized about it because I also respect your time. Right? We may not think that, but through my mistakes and experiences, I've realized, yeah, these are all things I could have done to make my situation better. So now I'm compiling them all into, right, a box of a list of reminders, like these are things I should do in the future. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And always, no, don't, sorry, last piece, don't always expect people to be unreasonable, right? If they're reasonable people, it'll be okay. And the one in a million that's unreasonable, you just have to walk away because you can't control them anyway.
Easy.
Well, that's it. That's easy. Yeah, so easy, right?
Like,
Like,
bye.
and me talking about it like I do it all the time and I don't.
No, I'm the same, and I just love everything that you said, but because I feel like I do this sometimes where when I'm, like, meeting people, I would always lead with, like, "Yeah, I'm a little bit more sensitive," or, like, whatever, and then I'm like, "Am I don't know, exposing myself when I say that?" Because it's like, "Oh, well, I can gaslight this girl. I can walk all over this girl." I'm like, "Am I causing more trouble for myself by leading with that?"
No, because you are your own person.
Hmm,
So think about it. Would you really change yourself for the possibility that people might like you better or treat you better? That doesn't seem fair, does it?
yeah,
People should respect you regardless. That doesn't mean we can't improve, right? As I just admitted about myself. There's so many things I can work on. But at the end of the day, if I'm a reasonable, nice person that treats people right with kindness, then there's nothing wrong with that.
thank you, I feel normal, and then
Oh,
because you keep saying, like 'cause you keep saying reasonable, I don't know, do you have any red flags for unreasonable people? 'Cause I feel like
these are reasonable people.
yeah,
That's such a good
well,
question.
I feel like I have red flags for people. I'm trying to think, like, when
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I feel like I don't know, because I feel like I'm judging people, but just if like, say something, like, sometimes I could just be like, "Oh, yeah, I saw, like, a house" again, we're in Vancouver for, like, $400,000, and they're just like, "No, that's not possible." It's just that immediate quick no, I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah,
"Red flag, ding, ding, ding," and I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm gonna put that in my back pocket," and
Potential liar, yeah. Um, I think I'll give a red flag about myself. Okay. That might come off as unreasonable, which is, yeah, I'm quick to react. So it's a red flag because it seems like I'm not listening, which is one, right? People who chronically do not listen or do not respect you, you're trying to talk to them and they're kind of like, whatever. That's a problem because then how can you ever have a healthy relationship in any sense, personal, professional, romantic, however you want to interact with this person, ever, if they're never listening,
yeah.
right?
Mm.
You have to keep repeating yourself. That's another thing. I'm guilty of that too. If I'm very emotional and I refuse to walk away from the conversation, even when I know I should, and I'm just seeing black or red, like I mentioned earlier, uh, and you have to keep telling me the same thing, then you know I'm not listening. Then it comes off as I don't care, but maybe I'm just emotional, right?
Yeah.
And that's not good either.
Yeah. So again, it's like even if someone is being quote unquote unreasonable, I like to think that's like, okay, maybe it's just like a trauma response or
It
like
could
you're
be,
just
yeah.
emotional somehow. Like again, you're not a bad person, but maybe you've been through bad things
Yeah.
and it's caused you to react this way. Again, I'm gonna for you, but I'm also gonna leave you alone because I don't have time for that mess.
Yes. Yeah.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I basically asked like all my questions. And
Mhm. Okay.
yeah, my last one, which I asked everyone, it's a new one because you haven't been on the podcast in a while.
Okay.
Like this, if you were to lose your voice tomorrow, what's the last thing you want people to hear from you?
Oh my goodness. If I lose my voice tomorrow, first of all, that's devastating because I love to talk.
You'll get it back. You'll get it
Uh,
back.
oh,
But
I'll get it back. But what's the last thing I would say? That is such a good question. I would just tell people, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Just be nice to people. Don't be unreasonable. Don't be crazy. I think that's probably what I'll say. You didn't give me much time to prepare that, so genuinely, that is what I would say.
Cause you're a glass house. Cause you're a glass house. Put your glass on, get your boss on behind the glass.
mwah.